Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, it has been quite a week here on the homestead. In fact, a week ago today is where our story that we want to tell you guys starts.
We had no idea that we were going to get a really bad storm. It was actually Labor Day. We were all preparing in the house to have company over in the evening to have a cookout. And out of nowhere, the blackest clouds were just moving in. It seemed slow at first, and then it just moved in with like such a gust.
Yeah, we were having about 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. It just got crazy for, really, it didn't last very long. I'd say 30 to 45 minutes is all that it lasted. But when it was over, you guys, there was quite a bit of damage.
Now, during the storm, it was one of those winds where you could actually see the dust and everything just go whipping by. It was almost like watching a hurricane. The wind was so strong.
Right.
From inside the house, you could see limbs of trees and sticks and branches and stuff just like flying off the trees and throughout the yard. It was super crazy. We didn't have any damage to the house or the barns or the workshop or anything, but
Right.
We did have some tragedies here in the orchard area.
Right. So the hoop coop that you can see behind us, this is where one of the flocks of our breast chickens live. This hoop coop was actually picked up and partially thrown on top of the fence behind it. Now, luckily, it missed the water spigot that's right here behind it. But you guys, it was like inches from it.
Yeah, it was actually kind of crooked and kind of turned half on its side. It looked kind of wonky.
Right. The frame kind of broke at the bottom.
It did, and the hardware cloth got disconnected from the cattle panels in some areas.
But luckily, this one was fixable. You can see that we've put it back together pretty darn good, actually. It took us quite a while. I had to use the tractor to pick it up off the fence and move it back in place, and then we had to kind of, reattach all of the hardware cloth and reinforce the frame. But all in all, this one survived pretty well.
And because the storm came up throughout the day, all of the chickens were out of the coop, so none of them got hurt during the storm.
Right, yeah, no animals were injured at any time during the storm, which was really, I'd say, actually pretty darn lucky. We had quite a bit more damage over in Wattlesville, the area where we have our ducks and silkies and quail, and the hoop coop over there for the silkies, it was completely damaged.
Now, when we came out here to survey the damage, we didn't bring our whole camera system and our mics and stuff, but we did take footage with our phones.
And Sarah was able to get some footage right after the storm. So the audio may not be great, but we do have some footage from right after the storm. Well, this is where the silky house is supposed to be, the fluffy butt hut, and it is now all the way over there. It literally got picked up and thrown across this fence. Luckily, the fence doesn't look like it got that bad. This is bent a little bit, but the hoop coop is completely destroyed. Well, you guys may have seen the video where I moved the quail to their new hoop coop, and that luckily didn't move. That was actually just this morning that we recorded that video, so they've been out here for only about 6 hours. They're having quite a first day in their hoop coop. You can see the duck hoop coop right next door. Luckily, it doesn't look like it was damaged at all, but it is moved quite a bit. So we're gonna have to try to move that back. I think for tonight, the silkies are gonna have to sleep with the ducks. I don't have another plan that we can do that quickly, so looks like the rest of my week might be making new hoop coops. So as you could see, the silky hoop coop was pretty much completely destroyed. So I've spent the last several days rebuilding that hoop coop. You can see it here behind me. I'm not quite done. We're actually going to finish that up today with you guys. There were some parts that I was able to reuse, but some parts that were just way too destroyed to even be able to reuse.
What's left to do yet really is the tarp over the hoop coop. And then actually we're going to talk with you guys about how we're going to be staking these to the ground for going forward.
So I did make this the same size that we had before, but I did make some improvements to it over what was here before. So let's take a walk around it real quick. I'll show you that. I'll kind of show you what I was able to save and salvage off the old hoop coop, and then we'll get started putting on that tarp. So first and most importantly, I was able to save the fluffy butt hut sign, which luckily wasn't damaged at all. It's pretty amazing. So I was able to save that, but I was also able to save quite a bit of other stuff. The door off the original hoop coop, I was still able to save that. I did have to replace the hinges because they were pretty well bent, but I was able to save the door. The door on the new one ended up being a little bit bigger because you're kind of at the mercy of where these holes are on the hoop coops. So the door on the new one the doorway ended up being a little bit bigger. So I just attached a 2x6 here on the inside, and that gives the door something to close up against and fills up that gap. So it's going to work out just fine. I was able to save these angle braces here off the sides. And then I was actually able to save the uprights and the angle braces on the back section and able to put that right on. So that actually worked out really well. Now on the old hoop coop, I just had hardware cloth like this on the sides. And on this one, I decided to do it similar to what we just did over on the quail coop. And so I ran galvanized metal roofing on the sides and the back. And that will give them a lot more protection from predators. So that's what's going to be underneath the tarp. And the tarp that we're going to be using today is the same one that you just saw us use on a couple videos ago on the quail hoop coop. It's a super heavy duty 18 mil tarp. We get them on Amazon. They're not cheap, but they work really well. And so we're going to use that today on this one as well. All right, so this is the tarp that we're going to be using. Like I said, the same tarp that we just used on the silky coop, same one that I've used on the last few hoop coops that I built. I do have this in our Amazon shop if you want to take a look at it. Now the tarp that we're using today is a 12 by 16 foot, but this hoop coop is only 8 feet long. So what we need to do is we need to unroll this, and then we're going to kind of fold it over. What I like to do is once we fold it, I tape along the edge so that it stays folded while we're putting it over, and it just makes it a little bit easier. So when you're doing these hoop coops, you have to remember that even though this hoop coop is 7 feet wide by 10 feet by 8 feet long, you need a 16-foot tarp to make it over the top of the hoop coop. Whatever length the cattle panels were that you're starting with to make the hoops, that's the length of the tarp that you need. So we need this tarp to be 8 feet by 16 feet. So the first thing we're going to do is get this tarp folded to that size, and then we'll be able to throw it over the top of the hoop coop. So we need to turn it, right? Or is this? Oh no.
That's the 16-foot side, so we need to turn it this way.
Now this tarp is brown on one side and gray on the other. We always like to have the gray side out, so that's how we're going to do this. So we're going to fold this at the size of the hoop coop. So we laid this out next to the hoop coop, and then we're just going to fold it so it's the size of the hoop coop. I just wanted to show you again what I meant with the tape. So I like to use this outdoor rated duct tape. And what I'll do is first I'll just put a piece kind of here near the edge. And I'll just tape it so that it's nice You don't have to go the whole length because this duct tape is expensive. And really, once this is over the hoop coop, the tape really isn't that important. This is just to hold it in the right spot as you're putting it over the hoop coop so that the fold can be, you know, underneath the rest of the tarp. It would be pretty hard to do this and keep it folded in exactly the right spot while you're pulling it over. So we'll just put, I don't know, 5 or 6 pieces of this along the edge, and that should be enough to hold it while we're putting this over. And for the most part, you never really want to cut a tarp, because once you do that, you're just asking for it to start to fray, and it's going to be a lot weaker. It's going to be a lot stronger if you just fold it over like this. And really, this front half of the hoop coop will just have a double layer tarp, which, hey, that's okay. Gives them even extra protection.
Careful not to snag it on anything. Do you want to go on the other side and I'll go on the inside? Oh, we got it. Ooh, I'm snagging something over here. We need to be careful.
So to attach the tarp to the baseboards, what I like to use are what are called fender washers, which is just a washer with a real small hole in the center. And then I use these 1.5 inch, or I think these are 1 5/8 deck screws. And the two of those together just anchor those really well to the baseboards. So that's what we're going to use. It looks like 7 on each side. We'll start at the back and we'll work our way forward.
Let me pull this more even along the bottom.
Okay. So on to the next part of today's project, which is going to be anchoring the hoop coop to the ground. And really, we need to go and do this to all 6 of our hoop coops. Now, this is something we didn't think was ever going to be necessary. We've been using these hoop coops now for the last 4 years. Our original 2 are 4 years old now, and we've never had a problem with them until this year. So we just didn't ever think that this was going to be necessary. We've had some huge winds, and these things have never ever moved. But we're getting more and more of these kind of pop-up storms that just come out of nowhere and just produce these super high winds. And so I think going forward, it's just going to be necessary whenever we build one to anchor it right away. So I've been looking at a lot of different ways to anchor these, and my original plan was to use like ground anchors, which screw into the ground and really hold super tight. In fact, I ordered some on Amazon. I ordered 24 of them, enough to do our 6 hoop coops. And part of the reason we waited a whole week to finish this project up was because I was waiting for those to arrive. But this morning I came out and I tried a couple of those off camera. And you guys, with our rocky ground, I just can't get them in the ground more than just probably about 6 inches. And that's not going to be enough to do what we need it to do. So we've decided to do what we know works around here, which is to drive in T-posts. And so this is what we're going to do. We're basically going to drive in T-posts, like one here and one at the back on each side. It's not going to be necessarily the best looking way to do it, but with our rocky ground, it's about the only thing that we can think of that will really work. We're going to do the silky coop here first, and then we'll move on to some of the others. All right, now that our T-posts are in, it's time to actually start, putting something on here to hold these to the ground. Now, the one thing that I did buy that I was going to use with those ground stakes that we still can use is this right here. This is extra heavy duty paracord. And originally I was going to use ratchet straps. I was going to try to use ratchet straps. But first of all, ratchet straps that are 16 feet or longer, we'd really need about 20 feet to go up and over. And we need 2 per hoop coop, so we need a dozen of them. It just was way too expensive. So that got me looking for alternatives, and I came across this paracord. Now, normal paracord, which I use for a lot of different things, I always have a big spool of it around, usually has a breaking strength of about 550 pounds. But this paracord that I found on Amazon actually has a breaking strength of 1,000 pounds, which I think is going to be plenty for what we're doing here. In fact, when I went to Walmart to price ratchet straps, most of the ratchet straps had breaking points of less than 1,000 pounds. So this is actually stronger than most of the ratchet straps that they sold at Walmart, at least for the kind of light and medium duty ones. So this is what we're going to use. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to try to tie it as tight as we can around the T-post in between 2 of these nubs, and then throw it over to the other side, and then tie it as tight as we can on that side as well. And I think that that will be plenty. All we're really trying to do with this is hold these to the ground. By doing this, hopefully these will never fly up in the air in the first place. So it's not like it's not like you're trying to dangle the hoop coop from this cord. You're really just trying to prevent it from ever lifting up in the first place. So I think this is going to work out just fine. So we're going to do this one here and see how that works. And then we've got the quail hoop coop and the duck hoop coop in here yet to do. And then, you guys, I want to give you an update on how the quail are doing in their new outdoor cage. And Sarah has an exciting update for you on our dairy cows as well. All right, so like I said, all we're going to try to do is tie this as tight as we can around the T-post. Nice thing about this paracord is it doesn't really have a lot of give to it. So it pretty much stays how you put it. I really do think that's going to be strong enough. I'll try to check them occasionally and make sure nothing has come loose. All right, toss this over. I really think that's going to be good. I think that's going to be enough to just keep it on the ground in the first place. And like I said, if we get a wind that can rip these T-posts out of the ground, then we've got a bigger problem. We're probably going to have a lot of damage around the whole homestead. So I think this is going to work. Let's get these other ones done quickly so we can move on to those updates for you guys. Well, all 3 hoop coops here in Wattlesville are now anchored to the ground. The other 3 hoop coops that we have, we're not going to do today, but we are going to make sure that those are done before we are expecting any more bad weather. We're getting a couple sprinkles this afternoon, but it's not supposed to be anything bad, and it's not supposed to last long. All right, let's move on to an update on the quail. So it has been 1 week today since we moved the quail to this new outdoor, what I'm calling an aviary. It's a hoop coop up on a platform so that they can live on solid ground with shavings instead of living in wire cages. So, I'm first of all, I got to tell you guys, now I know we're only a week in, but as of right now, I am very pleasantly surprised with how it's going. The quail, first of all, seem happy. If there's a way to tell if a quail is happy, there's been no fighting that I've seen at all, and I've spent some time out here watching them. I haven't seen any fighting at all. The eggs have not been terrible to find. They're not laying in the little baskets that I put in there for them, but they are spending a lot of time in those, just having fun playing in the hay that I put in there. Um, Mostly they're laying either in those little V-shaped shelters that I built for them. Well, let's go inside. So for the most part, what I was starting to say outside, for the most part, what they're doing is they're laying underneath these little hiding spots that I made for them. So all I do every morning is I come in here, first of all, I just look around and I look for any that are just laying out in the open, which honestly, for the most part, I have only found a few that are just out in the open. Then I tip each one of these over. And as you can see, like under this one, there's 2 eggs already today. I'm going to leave those there. I'll get them. I always collect quail eggs in the morning because I'm not exactly sure. They kind of lay all throughout the day, so I just collect them in the morning. It's fine. In the winter, I'll probably need to collect in the evening so they don't freeze overnight, but right now, this is fine. So all I do is I come and I tip each one of these over. I grab any that I can see, and then I kind of fluff the bedding up underneath them, and sometimes there's a couple buried under there. So right now we have 25 quail in here, 25 females, and some of them are really young, so they're just starting to lay. I'm getting about 18 eggs a day, 12 to 18 eggs a day, which I think is great, and I think that's going to ramp up as all of these younger females start laying. So I'm very happy with that. I'm also happy to report that for the most part, I mean, now it's been a week, but the bedding is staying much cleaner and drier than I thought it would. I think we're going to get at least 2 to 3 weeks out of the bedding before I need to replace it, so that's good. I do have these waterers, and I have them in one of these pans, so if there is any water that spills, it stays in these pans, and same with their feed. So, you guys, it's going really well. I'm really happy. I think the quail seem happy, and that's really what we want, is happy animals here on our homestead.
Well, you guys, it's been a long time since we have been over here by any of the cows, but specifically the dairy cows. And we do have some really great announcements or things to share with you guys. Bye, babe. The first one is we've had some questions, even though we did talk about it in a previous video. We had some questions about whether or not our dairy cows ever got bred. And yes, both of them did. Now, we had a hard time getting Rose bred through AI, and we tried a very long time, probably longer than we should have, but we really wanted her to be bred to Jersey stock. It didn't happen, and it didn't happen, and then back in November, we decided, you know what, we're just gonna put her in with our registered Hereford bull. Because we were also so disappointed about what had been going on with her and AI, we never had Babe AI'd. And so when we put Rose in with Tex, our bull, we decided to just put Babe in with him as well. And long story short, she got bred as well. You may notice that Rose is not here. Babe is there, and actually we have our yearling beef heifers here and our steer, but Rose is not here. Not too long ago, a family from our church approached us about possibly buying one of our dairy cows. And so we made the decision that, number one, our family doesn't need 2 cows in milk, and soon enough we would have 2 cows in milk. And so we wanted to bless them with a dairy cow and thought that Rose would be the best one to go to them because she already knows the process. The family that bought her from us is first-time dairy cow owners, and we thought that we could help them along, and we thought that Rose would be a perfect match for them because she is so good on the milking stand. She can either be machine milked or hand milked. I did actually do both with her, and we just think that she's going to be a great family cow for them. So that means that we have Babe, and only Babe, for our dairy needs here on the homestead. She is due to calve in November, and so we are anxiously awaiting that time, and I've been starting to work with her a little bit, trying to get her used to coming up to the milking barn. I'm hoping to get her up on the milking stanchion pretty soon so she knows where to go and what she's supposed to do, and that she gets comfortable with that process before she calves.
Now, along with Babe, over on this side of the driveway, you may notice all of these other beef cows as well. They're actually heifers. These are our heifers that were born last summer, the beginning of last summer, and we've got 4 of them over here. These are the daughters of our bull Tex. So we've separated them out right now because Tex is in with all of the cows breeding them, and we didn't want these guys to get bred back to their father. Even though some farmers will do that, we didn't want to do that. So we decided to move them away and wait until next summer to breed them. Tex is almost done with his job for the year, which is trying to get all of our grown cows pregnant. I think he's doing a very good job. I've seen him doing his job, and he looks like he's getting it done. So once Tex is finished with the girls this year, we're actually going to be selling him. We didn't really want to because he has really been a fantastic bull for us, and he's young. He's got a lot of life left in him, but because we're saving back his daughters from last year, and we were actually lucky enough to get 4 more heifers out of him this year that we're going to be saving as permanent members here on the farm, we just can't keep Tex any longer. We need to get a new bull next spring. So let's walk over. I'll show you what Tex looks like, and we'll talk a little more over there. So on this is the other side of our driveway here. This is where we have our main herd, where we have all of our cows and the calves that were born this year. And then you can see Tex right there. Tex is a registered Hereford bull, and he is a fantastic bull. He, like I said, he's just been really great for us. Good natured, has never been aggressive. He is a polled Hereford, so he doesn't have horns, and none of his calves will have horns, so that's good. Now, every year that we've had Tex, he's gotten every one of our cows pregnant, and we've had some fantastic calves out of him. So we are going to be selling him when we get when we get done with him this year, which will probably be sometime in October. So if anybody is interested, looking for a registered Hereford bull, he will be going up for sale at the end of this month, at the end of October, or sometime in October. You can send us an email, and we'll be happy to send you information about him. Yes, we hear you. Looks like everybody's excited. Normally when we're standing by a gate like this, it's because we're going to come over here and move them and let them go to another pasture. So they think that's what's happening, even though it's not. That's why they're all standing here. Well, you guys, that's what's going on the homestead today. You know, like I said earlier, when you're living this homesteading or farming lifestyle, you never know what's going to happen. We had big plans for this week already to do another project that we're not ready to show you now. And instead, we had to be rebuilding hoop coops. But, you know, you can't get upset about that kind of stuff. Weather comes, and you just got to deal with it as it comes and move on. So, exciting. I'm excited about the quail. I'm glad that I got to share with you guys that that's working out well. I'll continue to give you updates. If it either keeps going well or starts going bad, I'll tell you either way.
And I'm excited now that you guys know when Babe is going to calve. That'll be sometime in mid to late November. So I'm really excited to show you guys her calf and, you know, put her through the milking process. She's a heifer. She's never been milked, so we need to get her up on the stand, get her used to all of that. So that's exciting, new things coming also.
Right.
You guys, if you're enjoying our videos, we would sure love it if you would subscribe to our channel. And remember that the best way you can help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.